Very sensitive subject. From the moment I heard Frau say I had a clone, I knew that I'd be safe because I'd never be alone. An evil doctor shouldn't speak aloud about his feelings. My hurt and my pain don't make me too appealing. I hoped Scott would look up to me, run the business of the family. Had an evil empire just like his dear old dad. Give him my love and the things I never had. Scott would think I was a cool guy. Return the love I have, make me want to cry. Be evil, but have my feelings too. Change my life with Oprah and Maya Angelou, but Scott rejected me. C'est la vie. Life is cruel, treats you unfairly. Even so, a God there must be. Mini me, you complete me. We can make it right. Just me, just me and you. Getting jiggy with it. Just the two of us. Yeah. Quite pleasant, really. Just the two of us. You and I. Just the two. Just the two. Daddy loves you. Daddy loves you. Woo. Just the two of us. You and I.
My understanding of the history of the Great Dane is that they were born and bred primarily and raised in Germany for the estate dog that was common at that time. Basically to aid and assist a hunter to gather together and sort of hold at one place what's called a wild boar. And the wild boar is a very large, fierce pig. Has tusks about that big on both sides of its mouth, and the dog was not to attack the pigs, but to hold them until such time as the hunter could obtain access to them and come and shoot the pig for his table for food and that kind of thing. But Great Danes, as you know, can run very quickly, and they're bred primarily from crossing a Mastiff, who is a very large and very heavy dog, with a more fleet dog, which was the ancestor of the fox hunting hounds that were available in Germany and Europe at that time. Primarily, that was their first purpose. Then they evolved eventually into what's called an estate dog, and that was primarily a dog kept on an estate as a guard dog, or as a dog was to run with the coach, or run with the family and that kind of thing. And sort of, as you know, 2 or 3 of these large dogs can be pretty formidable as far as their presence is concerned.
In a very brief history, that we don't know if they came from Denmark, we don't know if they came from Germany. And it's about 1,200 years, I think, that they can trace the Great Dane back. And again, they were bred primarily to hunt and kill wild boars. And it goes back to the fawn color, as that's all I've ever bred. I have competed, of course, against all the other colors. Every dog show I go to, I compete against blues, blacks, Harls, brindles, whatever. But I've always just raised and had Great Danes for well over 20 years.
Well, you're talking to a guy that's got prejudices, okay? You have a Harlequin. A Harlequin, as you know, is a black and white dog. We have fawns, and fawns are primarily the largest number of Great Danes inside the breed. There are 6 or 7 colors, 2 of which are not necessarily recognized by the American Kennel Club. There's fawns, there's blacks, there's blues, there are harlequins, there are what's now recognized as a show quality dog as a mantle, which is a dog that has a white head with a black stripe down the front of its nose and looks like it's wearing a tuxedo. There's also a brindle dog, which was what the Germans called a tiger dog, which has black stripes on a dark beige coat. And when you breed two harlequins together, you either get a black dog or you get what's called a merle. And the merle is a gray dog with black spots, which is not recognized by the AKC, American Kennel Club, and is not showable at the present moment. But you can show harlequins, brindles, fawns, blues, and blacks. I work every day, still at my advanced old age, and I have my alarm clock set for 5 o'clock in the morning. And at 4:58, the dogs wake me up. They have a built-in time clock. You can tell them something, teach them something, do it once, do it twice, and they know it down pat. In fact, you have to be very careful that you don't teach them too much, because after a while you feel like you got to catch up. As far as show is concerned, there was times, it goes in cycles. There are times when the Great Dane has been very popular. There's times when the Dalmatian was very popular, and today it's Chihuahuas because of the taco commercials. But I think they're great dogs, and if you've ever attended a dog show that shows Great Danes, you'll see between 10 and 15 dogs being shown in all different categories. As far as I'm concerned, they're a great show dog.
I show all over the Northwest, Canada, and as I said, I'm working on becoming an AKC judge, which probably by next fall I will be, having completed all of their requirements. I've been back and showing at the big one at Westminster, at Madison Square Garden, upstate New York, all of the western states, and all over Canada. The things they look for in conformation are color. They look at coat. They look at the bite or the teeth of the dogs. They look at the legs. They look at how well the feet are formed. They look at angulation of the front and the rear of the dog. They look at movement of the dog. They look at eye color of the dog. They look at side gait of the dog. And they're looking at how well that dog that they're judging represents the standard of the dog as it's published by AKC. We spend 3 or 4 hours a day right to the dog in grooming, brush their teeth every day, groom the dog. Of course, you have to pick up after the dog. You have to feed the dog. So with the 3 I have at home, probably 3 to 4 hours a day.
One golden September day, Eliza and I set out after wildflowers, accompanied by Turk and Mother's caution not to stray too far, as wild beasts, 'twas said, lurked in the neighboring forest. But the prettiest flowers were always just beyond, and we wandered afield until we reached a fringe of timber half a mile from the house, where we tarried under the trees. Meantime, Mother grew alarmed, and Will was dispatched after the absent tots. Turk, as we had recalled, had sought to put a check upon our wanderings, and when we entered the wood his restlessness increased. Suddenly he began to paw up the carpet of dry leaves, and a few moments later the shrill scream of a panther echoed through the forest aisles. Eliza was barely 6 years old, and I was not yet 4. We clung to each other in voiceless terror. Then from afar came a familiar whistle. Will's call to his dog. That heartened us, babes as we were, for not our brother our reliance in every emergency. Rescue was at hand, but Turk continued tearing up the leaves after signaling his master with a loud bark. Pulling at our dresses, he indicated the refuge he had dug for us. Here we lay down, and the dog covered us with leaves, dragging to the heap as a further screen a large dead branch. Then, with the heart of a lion, he put himself on guard. From our leafy covert, we could see the panther's tawny form come gliding through the brush. He saw Turk and crouched for a spring. This came as an arrow, but Turk dodged it, and then, as a scream that I had never heard from a dog before or since, our defender hurled himself upon the foe. Turk was powerful, and his courage was flawless, but he was no match for the panther. In a few moments, the faithful dog lay stunned and bleeding from one stroke of the forest rover's steel-shod paw. The cruel beasts had scented other prey, and dismissing Turk, he paced to and fro, seeking to locate us. We scarcely dared to breathe, and every throb of our frightened little hearts was a prayer that Will would come to us in time. At last the panther's roving eyes rested upon our inadequate hiding place, and as he crouched for the deadly leap, we hid our faces. But Turk had arisen. Wounded as he was, he yet made one more last heroic effort to save us by again directing the panther's attention to himself. The helpless, hopeless ordeal of the agony was broken by a rifle's sharp report. The panther fell, shot through the heart, and from out of the screen of leaves rushed two hysterical little girls, with pallid faces drowned in tears, who clung about a brother's neck and were shielded in his arms. Will, himself but a child, caressed and soothed us in a most paternal fashion, and when the storm of sobs was past, we turned to Turk. Happily, his injuries were not fatal, and he whined feebly when his master reached him. "Bravo! Good dog!" cried Will. "You saved them, Turk, you saved them!" And kneeling beside our faithful friend, he put his arms about the shaggy neck. "Dear old Turk, if there be a land beyond the sky for such as thou, may the smuggest corner and best of bones be thy reward."
Unswerving loyalty. My Great Dane never asks me what I've been doing during the day, doesn't criticize me for what I've been doing, says, "Hi Dad, how are you? It's welcome, is it great to see you again?" Big slurpy kisses, and just absolute marvelous personalities.
And its character is that it's loyal, it's loving. That dog, a true Great Dane, would lay down its life for its owner. You know, the loyalty is supreme. The three dogs, my wife is at home right now. I have 3 Great Danes in my home. I don't have to lock my front door. Just the mere presence of those dogs within the home would deter anybody. However, once an individual is invited into my home, they're accepted by the dogs. They have that loyalty and that understanding.
And the loyalty of the Great Dane is one of total and absolute devotion to his owners and his masters. They're individuals, and if you treat them right, they treat you right. I have 3 Great Danes. Total overall weight quality between them is about 400 and some odd pounds. As far as a watchdog is concerned, I would defy somebody to come into my house being faced by 3 dogs of that size.
The most pleasing thing is just having them. I've never owned a Great Dane as such. I say they live with me. I think they own me. It's fairly obvious. I have 3 who live with me now. I just lost one in December. I had 4. It's just so pleasing. They're so gentle and so loving. The Great Dane, again, is a loyal family pet first, above the showing, above everything else. That Dane should be a member of the household.
Having 3 gorgeous, marvelous companions in my lifetime at the present moment, and having the satisfaction of being in the ring and winning with the dogs that I've bred, having dogs that are total companions and just real members of the family. Very, very loving, marvelous animals. Great Danes are very sensitive animals. They're easily dejected if you yell at them or something like that. And a very emotional dog, very sensitive dog. They require lots of care and tender feelings and a mutual understanding and mutual admiration society kind of thing.
Great Danes are extremely fine family pets. I have had them since the time my children were little kids. I have never had a Great Dane who has lived with me with a bad disposition. Some of the hardships, the biggest hardships, is probably, the biggest one is their lifespan, being so short. 7 to 9 years is the average. I've had them live longer. I've had them live shorter periods of time. There are some things within the Great Dane breed, such as stomach torsion.
When you have a dog that weighs 150 to 180 pounds that is capable of killing something in 5 seconds, you want to make sure that that dog has got good temperament, and is capable of being trained properly. This is a dog that's a big lover and can be bred for guard dog purposes and turned to be a vicious animal, and is very, very capable of causing a great deal of damage very quickly. I don't think there are any real hardships because you're involved with something that's a very lovely, marvelous animal.
Actually, I got started in Great Danes because I found my first one in the wilderness. He'd been in a fight, and his paw had been bitten. We had some young company in our home one evening. The young child stepped right on that sore paw, and this dog just opened his eyes. He's laying on the floor and looked at the person. So there again, it goes to temperament, it goes to breeding.
That you can't resist breeding or having more than one. That's one of the hardships. The second hardship is that you get a lot of them in your household, and pretty soon the household is a dog household. It's not a pretty household from that point. They like to, they're big dogs, and big dogs shed, so you learn to take hair off your clothes. And first thing you want to do when you train them is to not slip on the sofa and not sleep in the bed. There's a formula that you go by that has you divide the number of feet by the number of feet that you have, and if the Dane has more feet, then they get most of the bed. So you need to be sure that you don't let them take over, because they'll do that. Okay. Owning a Great Dane has a certain disease quality to it. After a while, you're stuck. Man, you can't think in terms of any other dog. Great Danes, as far as I'm concerned, are the dog in the world